Hey guys, welcome back to the channel McNallie Money, home of all things stock, investment, and personal finance related. Now for today's video, we're going to be providing an update on a company that I personally hold. This is one of my biggest investments in the Canadian MJ space. This video is honestly long overdue, you guys. The company has had a ton of news over the last couple of months that I'm really excited to talk about in today's video. The stock we're going to be discussing is none other than the Valens company. They've had some big acquisitions, some big news releases, and they have earnings coming out next week. So I'm super excited to get into today's video. Before we do, please take a second to hit the like button, you guys. It's a huge help to both myself and the channel. If you're not already subscribed, McNallie Money, feel free to do so. And let me know in the comment section below what you think about these recent developments at the Valens company, if you're currently holding shares, and how you think they stack up to some of the competitors in this space. Now without further ado, let's get into today's video. Okay guys, so that's right. Today's video, we're going to be providing an update on the Valens company. Now, as many of you know, this is one of my biggest positions in my entire portfolio. I hold well over $10,000 of the Valens company across my various different accounts. And to be honest, this video is long overdue, you guys. This company has had a ton of news over the last 3 or 4 months. We're going to go through that in today's presentation. They just announced their next earnings call, which is going to be coming up next week. So we're going to talk about that later in the presentation. I did actually sell off about $3,000 of my overall position in the Valens company. And I'm also going to talk about a couple of reasons why I decided to make that decision later in today's presentation. So without further ado, let's get right into it here. We've got the chart pulled up. You can see over the past 6 months, you guys, the Valens company has really struggled along with a lot of the names in the MJ space here in Canada. If we look back to the middle of May, this company was trading at $4. It's essentially cut its share price in half since then. They closed out October 6th down 4 cents per share, which equates to 1.75%. That landed them at $2.25 Canadian per share. You can see we're looking at the Toronto listing here, so under the ticker symbol VLNS. And it's going to be interesting to see if the Valens company does bounce off this support line right around the 220 mark, or if they continue to decline from here. Now back in the middle of August is actually when I decided to sell some shares. So I sold 1,000 shares of the Valens company right around the $3 mark. So it worked out to about $3,000 Canadian. I actually then put that money into Hut 8 Mining and Peak Fintech. So we're going to talk about the reasons why I decided to sell the Valens company in a couple of slides here. So based on that move, I still have 4,475 shares of the Valens company. My average cost is $282. So I am currently down about 20% on this position. And in terms of market value, it's just north of $10,000. So still my largest position in my account, right up there with Tilt Holdings, but definitely have trimmed a little bit off to try and spread out some risk and diversify out of the small cap MJ space slightly. And I should mention, based on all this activity, Yahoo Finance has market cap sitting just under $400 million Canadian. Now we're going to talk a lot about merger acquisition activity in this presentation, so be aware the market cap is fluctuating, you guys. We've seen a lot of share price move over the last couple of weeks, so obviously market cap is a direct reflection of that. Now, first piece of news here, you guys, we're going to discuss, we're working in chronological order from oldest to newest. And this article actually dates back to the end of August. So August 31st, the Valens company announces that they're going to be acquiring the leading premium craft licensed producer, Citizen Stash MJ Corp. And if you read through this article, you guys, there's a couple of big reasons here. So number one, this is a fully accretive acquisition. They're already producing revenue that's easy to fold into the bigger Valens portfolio. Citizen Stash is the #1 flower brand by market share, and it immediately catapults the Valens company into the premium flower category, which they're looking to gain exposure to. Now, in addition to that, the average retail price per gram from Citizen Stash is over $13, which is really quite impressive considering a lot of the other companies that we've looked at on this channel that are averaging about $3, $4, $5 per gram. Now, this acquisition was by no means small. It was actually worth about $54.3 million on an enterprise value basis. However, that being said, we're going to look at in a second how Citizen Stash stacks up to some of these other premium craft producers. And overall, it does look like the Valens company got a fairly attractive deal or price on this company. So here's a quick overview of the Citizen Stash operation. It's located in Mission, BC, so there are some geographic synergies as the Valens company is located in Kelowna, BC. The facility itself is a 14,000 square foot indoor facility. Half of that space is dedicated to genetics and clone development. 4,000 square feet is reserved for packing, and the remaining 3,000 square feet is actually their grow room, which is capable of producing 1,000 kilograms per year. And if you multiply that out, 1,000 grams per kilogram, $13 per gram sale price, you're looking at a maximum potential revenue opportunity here of about $13 million per year. Now keep in mind that's very basic math, but it gives you some sense of what this business run rate is or total potential top line revenue. Now they're fully licensed, they've got provincial sales opportunities already in place. They're really focused on that premium flower category and pre-rolls. Pre-rolls we've seen a ton of growth and appetite for here in the Canadian market, and they're already distributing their products in BC, Alberta, Ontario, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Yukon, and Northwest Territories. So huge geographic presence here in Canada, really from coast to coast to coast. Now this slide here does a really good job of comparing Citizen Stash to some of the other premium handcrafted producers in this space. And you can see when you compare the number of provincial distribution agreements with the average retail sales price per gram, in addition to the number of flower-based SKUs that the company has, Citizen Stash does really stack up quite nicely. So you can see Broken Coast, for example, lower sale price per gram, slightly higher SKU count, 28 versus 20, yet they're valued at over $230 million. Black Market on the other end of the spectrum, so they have the lowest number of SKUs. Black Market is owned by the company Avant Brands. This is actually formerly G-Tech, so we've covered this on the channel. I know Financial Education Jeremy has a position in this company. They're selling at an average rate of $12.71 per gram, so a lower sales price, much lower SKU count, and they're still valued at just over $106 million Canadian. So when you compare that to the 54.3 that the Valens company paid for Citizen Stash, it does really look quite compelling, you guys, and I think this was a great move on the part of leadership. Now, sticking with the theme of merger acquisition type of activity, this news came out September 1st, so just a day after the previous article, and this talks about the Valens company intent to acquire Verse Cannabis, or Verse, which is a company that they've had a long-standing relationship with over the past couple of years. Now, in the article here, they really talk about the combination between the Valens company, Verse, or Verse, and Citizen Stash, and combined on a pro forma basis, this will now create a #1 brand in flower, #3 brand in pre-roll, and together between these three assets, they're now going to have over 220 listings or SKUs available in 7 different provinces and territories. Now, unlike Citizen Stash, Verse is really focused on the other end of the value spectrum, so the more cost-conscious consumer. Now, that being said, they do have a really impressive lineup of different SKUs or offerings that include things like sour medley, baked apple soft chews, double chocolate brownie, and a variety of different beverages. So I am super excited about this acquisition. However, one thing that I did find odd, and I noticed people talking about this on the discussion boards as well, is the Valens company didn't provide any financial information about this transaction. So if you scroll through the article here, there's no numbers mentioned whatsoever in terms of purchase price, revenue run rate, anything like that. And that was concerning to me as an investor in this company. So this is one of the reasons, you guys, that I did decide to take a little bit of money off the table and sell those 1,000 shares, because I did find it a little bit concerning that they didn't put in any valuation, purchasing price, or deal structure in this press release. And you can see here, even in the company's investor presentation related to these acquisitions, there are no numbers mentioned for the Verse acquisition. Now, regardless of that, I did want to show you guys this slide just to give you a sense of the different product categories that Verse currently operates in. So they've got everything from flower and pre-roll, again on the other end of the spectrum from Citizen Stash. They've got vapes, concentrates, edibles, beverages, and drink drops. So very well diversified across the different product categories. Again, I'm excited about this acquisition. but it did strike me as a little bit odd that they didn't disclose how much they actually paid for this component. Okay, so moving along here, you guys, we've talked about the big acquisitions. Now we're going to move into some additional news that came out in the start of September. So September 8th, the Valens company achieves access to GMP manufacturing, which is good manufacturing process, in Australia, and in addition to that, expands their international footprint in the Asia Pacific region through an exclusive partnership with Epsilon Healthcare. So this is super exciting because it really does increase the Valens company's international reach, and I think it sets them up nicely to make an entrance and start to serve this part of the world in a more meaningful way. So if you scroll down in the article here, you can see the Valens company today announced an exclusive partnership with Epsilon Healthcare, a diversified global healthcare and pharmaceuticals company. So they do have operations all across the planet, for access to Epsilon's good manufacturing practices GMP facility in Australia for manufacturing products. Now this Epsilon facility or Southport facility is the largest MJ extraction facility in the Southern Hemisphere. They're able to distribute to Australia and New Zealand. And in terms of how the deal is actually structured, the Valens company is going to fund all operational and capital expenditures for the Southport facility. And in return, they're going to get preferential access for up to 85% of the capacity of that facility for the next 5 years. And at the end of that period, they're going to have an option to extend the agreement for an additional 6 years if both parties agree. So basically, the Valens company is coming in, they're putting the money up front, and now they can go in and use this facility as they see fit to service the Southern Hemisphere in Australia and New Zealand through this big partnership. And I should mention before we move on to the next slide, this is a 10,000 square foot facility. It's purpose built and it's got a full suite of extraction capabilities, ranging from processing the actual raw plant material to downstream purification and isolation processing. And lo and behold, here you guys, the next article, September 16th, the Valens companies actually announces strategic distribution agreement with Apoteca, which is really focused in Costa Rica on Central America. But the second piece of this news release is actually a production update in Australia. And you can see here that the Valens company has already secured a $540,000 from Cambolate to manufacture GMP products for the Australian and New Zealand markets. And I should note that's in Australian dollars here, you guys. So just a week after the news came out about that initial agreement and getting access to this GMP facility in Australia, they've already signed a massive agreement, and Jeff Fallows, the president of the Valens company, chimes in, "We are excited to report our first GMP production through the Southport facility, marking our further expansion into the Australian market. This order represents Valens taking advantage of Epsilon's large-scale GMP manufacturing capability with the capacity and means to provide further accelerated access to Europe through their TGA and EU GMP capabilities." So super excited about this, you guys. This is a major contract. It really gives them a foothold in the Australian market with the opportunity to expand to other continents and countries down the road through this existing partnership. Now, as if all of that news wasn't exciting enough, they had two big acquisitions. They had a big entrance into the Australian market. Now we're going to switch gears and come closer to home here. We just actually talked about Fire and Flower on the channel yesterday, so really cool to see how these companies are interacting with each other. But the Valens company on September 9th entered into a white label partnership with Fire and Flower, which, as any of you know who watched yesterday's video, is one of Canada's leading MJ retailer brands, to actually manufacture and distribute CBD oils for their private label CBD brand, Revity CBD. And one thing I thought was interesting here, you guys, you can see the product focus of the Revity CBD line has been derived from key consumer insights in production formulation, target consumer segments, price, and format in relation to the Highfire digital retail and analytics platform. In yesterday's video, I said how Highfire was quoted or mentioned in a lot of these other company news releases, and this is a perfect example of that in action. So overall, this is great news. The Valens company really has a strong grasp in the Canadian economy on the white labeling, third-party production, and this really adds to their overall portfolio and lineup of partnerships here in Canada. And what a perfect segue to our last news article here, you guys. The Valens company, October 5th, so very recently here, enters into 6 different manufacturing partnerships and provides a corporate update. So again, you can see here huge focus on manufacturing agreements and partnerships in Canada. Now, these 6 various agreements include 3 of the top 7 Canadian LPs by market share. And the article goes on to say the majority of these agreements were actually signed in the last 3 weeks. So number 1, this is going to mean a ton of more revenue for the company. Number 2, this really shows the level of interest or significant interest in the capabilities that the Valens company can provide these different LPs in terms of the variations of SKUs and product format. Now, Tyler Robson, the CEO of the Valens company, great leader here, you guys. I'm a huge fan of him. Does make a comment on this news release. So notably, the size of these agreements align with our promise of fewer, bigger, and better. So Tyler Robson on one of the previous investor calls really said the company is shifting their focus to go after bigger fish, you guys, and more meaningful contracts or agreements. So this is a direct reflection of that in terms of the relationships and products that they're offering, ensuring the Valens company remains focused on providing the highest shareholder value. Additionally, this marks the largest third-party edible agreement to date for Life Food Technologies, which is another acquisition we covered on this channel. We are excited to have these partners on board and will continue to focus on adding partners that align with our values. And despite all of this good news, you guys, we have seen that share price decline steadily over the last couple of months. So if you have been sitting on the sidelines, you've been thinking about entering a position in the Valens company, this may be the opportunity to initiate a position or buy some of those initial shares. And I should also mention further down in this article, the Valens company does provide an update on their application to be listed on the Nasdaq exchange. Now, this was seen as a major catalyst coming for the company. I know I've received a number of questions from viewers saying, what's the status on the Nasdaq uplist? Now, the company, or Valens, does say they have progressed at a slower pace than originally anticipated. However, they now have retained a top attorney, Stikeman Elliott LLP in Canada, and Foley Hogue LLP in the US as legal counsel to really try and navigate this uplist process. This is still on the company's roadmap. It is still a goal for them, but like I say, it has progressed slower than originally anticipated, and they do not give an updated date or ETA on their expected Nasdaq listing. And I thought a fitting way to wrap up this video would just be to take a look at a summary of the Valens company overall here, you guys. So they're really focused on creating that top tier global licensed producer or manufacturing type of company. As mentioned earlier, they've got over 220 different provincial listings or SKUs. They've got the largest third-party manufacturing capability of vapes here in Canada, roughly 5% of the overall extract-based market here in Canada. In addition to that, they control nearly 8% of the MJ-infused beverage market here in Canada. Beverages as a category we're seeing grow exponentially here in Canada and in the United States. They now have the #1 brand in flower with an average sales price above $13 per gram. So that's the Citizen Stash acquisition. They've got a top 10 US CBD business through their acquisition of Green Roads. And their products are now available in 8 provinces, 50 states, and 11 plus countries around the world. So they're definitely starting to move into that international or global category. And underpinning all of that, you guys, the bottom bullet point here, Valens maintains a strong balance sheet, healthy capital structure, and is well positioned to support continued growth and execution across its various business units. So for those reasons, I definitely think the Valens company is worth a closer look, and this is exactly why I've made this investment one of the biggest in my entire portfolio. I believe in the leadership team. I believe in the company. I love the strategy they have here, you guys, and I think this is really a giant in the making, and I'm happy to be invested at the ground floor, even if that means some short-term price fluctuations in the share price or the value of my investment. And the final thing I wanted to mention here, you guys, before I let you go, the company, or the Valens company, just announced that they're going to be releasing Q3 numbers after the market close next week, Wednesday, October 13th. So I'm going to be doing a follow-up video at that point in time, but I wanted to get this one out in advance because there was so much to talk about and cover. So definitely stay tuned for that earnings release. I'm optimistic. I think this is going to be blockbuster for them, but time will tell. And as mentioned, we'll get a video out late next week to discuss the numbers in more detail. Thanks so much for watching today, you guys. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, McNallie Money, make sure you do so. Hit the like button before you leave. It's a huge help to myself and the channel. And on a final note, thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your day.